Hey, Mike Thielmans here with Cult Creators, and I'm going to show you our internal SOP that we've never shared before on how we build 5, 6, and 7-figure communities using tribal psychology. So, if you're here, this is kind of like a brand new overview. If you're new to Skool, if you're just starting a Skool, if you're moving platforms over, this is just kind of like more of a higher level. Here's exactly what we do when we're starting a new Skool, based on the tribal psychology that we've hunted for the past 7 years, studying cults, movements, human psychology, and then implementing them, building a $3 million membership, building a couple 6-figure 100K plus, and then helping many people with their 5-figure communities. So this is our Cult Creators. You can see it in the background, and I'm going to open up all the way to the top. The Skool blueprint for building a cult-like community. So this is our proven plug-and-play system to create a community, a classroom, and a culture your members actually want to belong to. So as we know, ghost towns don't make a lot of money, right? But if we can get our members to actually want to belong to something greater, we can change lives at scale. And so that is the thing here. And we just keep seeing that most people build for buyers, right? They're looking for people to come in and buy and really focus on the method that they're selling. But people don't rally behind a method. They rally behind a mythology, right? People really want to be a part of something. They want to belong to something. And so when we build our schools for belonging, primarily, if we focus on the tribal part of belonging in the brain, then we can get people to not only buy, but get them to continually buy in month after month. And that's how we turn lurkers into lifetime members and actually have people who are bragging about being a lifer in the community, right? So most people self-sabotage because, humans are wired for comfort. They're not wired for change. And so that's why we have to almost manipulate human behavior to get people out of their way so that they actually do the things that they sign up to do, right? And so when we do that, right, when we get members to buy in month after month, then we can override, the part of the brain that gets them to stop doing the things, so that we can get them doing the behavior long enough to get testimonials, right? Get a happy flood of customers in the community who then refer people because they got the results, who then, give you the testimonial because they got results, who then give you a higher lifetime value because they keep paying to get the results. And then after they get the results, they usually continue to pay because they want to be a part of the community. They want to have this hierarchical status in the community, give back, right? So it's a self-fulfilling loop where people stay, and then they'll stay in to help the new people. The new people become, the graduates who then help the new people. This gives you marketable proof to get more people in, and it becomes what we call our proof loop. And so we don't build for buyers, we build for belonging. And so this is that tribal belonging that people want more than anything you could possibly sell them, right? People will sign up for the thing, right? AI automation, spiritual enlightenment, whatever the thing is that they are seeking, that they will like the pain usually that they are paying to solve, but they'll stay for the community. They'll stay if you give them a sense of meaning and belonging, right? So we want to build our school in a way that really calls them in. And so I'm going to jump to the bottom where we kind of talk about the 4, horsemen of this. So these are the 4 laws of belonging. And this is where we'll start almost always, right? So similarity, that is number 1. People are wired to be in tribes, right? That is how we grew up. Anything, if you were outside of the tribe, that was danger. You were alone, you were isolated. Isolation equals death. And so similarity is how our brains are wired. And so when we can create and increase similarity in our schools, in our tribes, in our groups, in our communities, right? Then people will automatically feel like they belong. It's not that awkward cocktail party where people are like, hanging around in a corner, not knowing what to do. That's most communities. They don't know what to post. They don't know how to post. And so they end up just lurking, just looking from over here at what's going on, right? Maybe they'll be in the classroom, they'll do some of the things, but when there's similarity, when they feel like they already belong, then they jump right in. They feel like they're a part of it. They feel like they're amongst friends. It's just easy. And so we build for similarity. So the first thing that we do is like, what is the identity? Who are we, right? One of the first things in this frame of orientation that social psychologists say that we need is, who are we together, right? And so we create similarity through a shared identity, shared behaviors, shared rituals, shared language, shared values, because this activates the brain's bonding centers to create a deeper sense of belonging in the community. Number 2, significance, right? So cult creators increase significance in our members because when they feel seen, when they feel understood and rewarded for good behavior, it makes them feel valuable and it gives them a sense of purpose that they can't get anywhere else. And so significance is one of those core human, it's like part of the addiction formula, right? And so with these 6 things, if we can increase at least 3, they can become almost chemically addicted to the experience. And so significance is one of those things that it's a button that we can continually push, flood their brain with these feel-good hormones and gets them more involved in the community. Number 3, status. So status is everywhere in the human experience. There's a status, just look at corporates, CEO down to employees, or governments down to citizens. Like everywhere you look, there is a hierarchy, there's a social status. And so we just use it more intentionally within the community because humans are growth oriented. We want to become someone better. As soon as we get in somewhere, like we want a little bit more, we want to be better. We want that, right? We're hitting 10K a month. We want 12, we want 20, we want 1 million. And so this gives members more pride in the membership, in the tribe. And it also makes it harder to cancel, right? Once you've climbed these ranks, it's a lot harder to slip out because you're not just going to be able to come back and get that. And so there's several ways that will increase and introduce a sense of status, from like the individual to like the whole collective. And so Skool makes this easy with the tools that they have. Number 4, cult creators are hope dealers, right? We brand wash our members into believing that they can do it, right? Because where there is no hope, there is no action. The more we can give hope, the more we can increase action. The more action we have, the more chance that they're actually going to get the results that they need, that they set out to do, right? So when hope fades, motivation and engagement goes with it. No bueno. We need to continually give them hope. And so those are the 4 core laws of belonging. So that's kind of like the overview. Then we'll get into exactly what we do to set it up. Okay, so building your Skool, setting up for tribal belonging, right? Let's get into some of the higher level because a lot of this is just so basic that it doesn't really matter, So we're just gonna bomb through some of these group settings. I just wanna show you some of the things that actually matter for the tribal belonging pieces. So I'm not gonna go through all of these steps because it's so different, right? Like your pricing model is your pricing model. There's some psychology behind it, but the tribal psychology, it's like, not really, But the group name, we really like to have it after the result you promise, the method you use to achieve it, or the collective identity of the community, right? So we didn't touch on that yet, but a collective identity is probably the number 1 piece that you need when setting up your community. If you don't have that, then you don't have tribal belonging. You have a bunch of different people doing something, right? But just like, the renegade brotherhood that we have is all about becoming a renegade. Cult creators is all about becoming a cult creator, right? Even just schools in general, schoolers is identity based. So there has to be a collective identity that we base this off of. Who are we together? And so we also like to make sure that there's some status involved in it, like renegade, we use his archetypal, that rebellious archetype to really lean into that renegade energy, right? Whereas cult creators is kind of that more creator, explorer energy with a little bit of savagery. But either way, you need a collective identity to really encapsulate who are we together. It's a big part of the mental map that humans need. And so the group description is kind of the same, right? Based on that collective identity, what is the collective mission that we need to do, right? We want to make sure everybody is that sense of belonging, that they come in and they're like, okay, we are this and we are going on this mission, right? Even if you look at the cult brands out there, like did a video on Ben and Jerry's. And so as soon as Nestle, Haagen-Dazs tried to shut them down in the early days, they now had a collective mission, right? And so they rallied their people to say, what's the doughboy afraid of? And then they went head to head against a corporate giant and won and beat them. And everybody felt like they are part of this mission. So even just an ice cream company where you're just alone eating from, a little B&J still gave their people a collective mission, right? So a similar identity on a similar mission, that is a big part of creating a Skool for tribal belonging. Public versus private, doesn't really matter. Kind of depends on what you're doing, right? Pricing, depends on what you're doing. Affiliates, Don't do that yet. Make sure that you actually have some structure before you have other people. If there's no stats, then how do people know if they want to affiliate? If they're going to make any money with you. Plugins, there's a lot going on here, right? Very much about onboarding. So we have a big onboarding X indoctrination further on, but all these are kind of subjective. The only thing I want to touch on is the links in your sidebar. We like to see two things. One is a merch store, right? Sell gear that unifies your tribe's identity, beliefs, and belonging. So we like having a merch store that has merch that you can buy that is identity based, right? Even just with Skool, we were talking about how their Skool shirts should say Schooler. And maybe, with the Renegade, we have a Renegade versus everybody. And so very much about the identity that I hold, because everything that we wear is about the identities we hold, right? Levi's is a cult brand. They did a really good job. They have a manifesto, that Rebuild America back in the day, that really solidified, why you wear Levi's versus like Giant Tiger, Walmart, all these other places. Like, it doesn't mean anything. It's just cheap clothing. But a merch store that has unifiers, right? Every tribe, every group of people, then what you look like is a big part of it. What you wear is a big part of signaling who we are. So we like to have a merch store with things that they can buy that are identity based, and then things that they can only earn. And I also like how Skool did it. Let's see if I can find this. Some like novelty items, right? And so in their merch store, they have this gangster cat pin. $100 for this little pin, and they probably did a limited run. If you know, you know. That's it. Of course, that's the whole point of creating this like tribal energy. Is if you know, you know. We want to create that us versus them, because we know that humans will give preference to their in groups, to the groups that they associate with. They already the brain already associates the people that in my group are better than the people that are not, and there's tens of different groups that people associate with, right? From like their church group to like sports fans. We just have to create a different one, our own unique one. So we like a little bit of, this is almost like that Easter egg energy, where this cat is like an Easter egg that Skool has, but it's also mixed with, social whatever, like the gangster glasses. So they just kind of like hijacked this meme for their own, and then made a limited run of this pin that they probably buy for like $3, sell for $97, and then do a limited run so that now there's exclusivity with it and scarcity, and makes you want it more. And the fact that you can't get it makes me want it more, right? So there's other things that they can buy, right? We think that there should be things that you can only earn. So a merch store. Definitely have a merch store because it's a unifier for your people. And it's a secondary line of revenue. The second one is a wall of fame. So you should have some sort of graduation associated with yours, or a leaderboard, certain places that you can hit, right? A certain social hierarchy. So in cult creators, we have cult-ish at 1K. We have cult creator at 10K a month. We have cult leader at 1K a day. And then we have cult classic at $1 million a year, right? And so each one of those are associated with a different identity, a different reward, and then we have this wall of fame. So one of our guys in Cult Creators, he runs rep.indie, and he has this beautiful wall of fame. I don't know if I can show you in this, but it's a really powerful way to get new sales, because people can see someone like me getting results, and it's really good for creating hope. Remember, Cult Creators are hope dealers. And so just by having this wall of fame, then you can just continually get hope on like another person hit this, another person hit this, another person hit this, right? And you can scroll, scroll, scroll. When we created the Over 40 Alpha, you can scroll for days with his wall of fame, the befores and afters for his Over 40 Alpha program. And so he would do a video, a Loom video, every single time somebody was emailing him, maybe checking it out. He would just do a video like this while he's scrolling, scrolling, scrolling his wall of fame. Super powerful. So those are the only things I would suggest. I mean, obviously getting like your pixels in so that you can retarget an audience and do all kinds of fun stuff. And then also the categories. Categories, we like to also have it based on the community rules and rituals, right? And so we'll get into that later. And the rules, right? Every good kingdom has rules. Every country has laws. Every, everywhere you go, there's rules for how you behave. The human mind always wants to know, how do I behave in this social setting? What does a good boy do? What does a bad boy do? You know? And so it's good to have the guardrails to say, this is who we are, this is how you behave. And so we want rules for what we want them to do, and we want rules for what we do not want them to do, right? So it's almost like association by disassociation. So this is who we are because this is who we are not and never will be. And then we also like some custom rules for some silly craziness to make people feel like an insider. Like with the over 40 alpha, it's like alphas don't drink alcohol. Alphas don't eat estrogenic foods. Those are our enemies. Those are anti-alpha. And so it's not technically a rule you're not going to get kicked out if you do that, but it's a rule of the identity to say, if you want to win here, this is what we expect from you. So in terms of the classroom, we'll just bomb some high level, right? You definitely want to start here and then build your classroom out with what we call a transformation journey. So that means, let's go back over to cult creators. Having a start here just makes it, because people always want to be handheld. They want to know exactly what do I do and what do I do next. So like we said earlier in another video, people are building libraries while their people are searching for a church. And so if you have a Netflix model and just a ton of content and expect people to A, get good results from it, and be self-directed enough to do it, you're fucked. That's not going to happen. But B is that people want to be led by the invisible hand. They want to be told what to do, and then what do I do next? And so you can't assume people are just self-directed enough that they're going to do it. You have to help them do it. This is what you do. This is what you do next. And so we like to every module and every part of the classroom tease up the next piece of the experience. And so start here is a really good way to say, hey, start here. So we'll use that auto DM and we'll push them here immediately because we don't want any dead time. As soon as they get in, they're going to see that auto DM. They're going to see the community. They're going to see the classroom. Everything is pushing the next step. So we start here, and this is where you really want to give them this, again, frame of orientation. What are we doing here? What's going on? And so help them understand the mission that they're going on. Who are we? Where are we going? How do we get there? If you can answer that, that's what we call our frame of orientation, right? That's where our tribe map, it's 7 pieces of tribal psychology that we use to make sure that everything is super aligned. And then from there, it's what helps build out this entire school. So then we'll use that to help dictate this onboarding. Who are we? Where are we going? How do we get there, right? Start here. Teach them what's up. What's the mission? The initiation. I mean, that part's just funsy hazing for us. But then indoctrination, right? Like we talked about, you have to have an identity. And so indoctrination is a big part of, if you can get them to adopt this new identity, in which Harvard did a study, and you can get somebody to adopt a new identity in about 20 minutes, and all the associated behaviors that you want to happen within that identity within 20 minutes, build a new identity, and then indoctrinate them on what it means to be that identity, right? So we teach them how the Kool-Aid is made. Again, Kool-Aid being a part of cults, which is a part of symbolism, which is a part of who we are together, which is a part of our theme. The identity upgrade, so we teach kind of like the science behind it. This is like how to become a cult creator, what it means to be a cult creator. Kill yourself. This is just a part of how we release the old and become the new. So there's some psychology in that. Of course, we have a manifesto because emotion equals action. We teach them, again, who we are, where we're going, how we get there. We teach them the rules and the rituals so they know exactly how to behave, right? This is how to belong. This is how to behave. This is what we expect of you, so that they're dialed in. They're locked in. They know exactly what's going on and what is expected of them. No ambiguity, because if there's any confusion, the confused mind, A, doesn't buy, but B, doesn't take action, right? And then a declaration. So that part is just kind of like a check the box. You made this commitment. Write it out in your own words. Sign off on it. Make it public. And so we'll definitely always have a start here that gets them like super dialed in on this is what's up. And then that transformation journey we talked about. So like make it very clear. Step 1, step 2, step 3. And because our pillars are in 3s, then we even change the color to make sure that they know this is one chunk. This is a second. This is the third, right? So setting up your classroom like that. Have a start here. indoctrinate them, onboard them, and then build your transformation journey in a way that drags them through and makes it very clear for them to follow. So the second part is the calendar. There's less going on here because, again, it's so subjective based on what you're doing, what your community is all about. Some people like to have a call every single day with different topics and different coaches. Our main thing is that what are we really trying to do here is push people together face to face, use the law of familiarity. The more I see similar faces, the more familiar they become, the more likable they become. If we're experiencing something together, like a coaching call, or working on a thing together, right, that automatically has all of these mirror neurons with everybody else, all of the other faces on the call. And so we like to say at least one call a week, push your people together, make sure they're on camera, make sure they're doing something together, right? And so it's pretty loose at that point. Again, just make sure you're doing a call, get them face to face, get them together. So that part's easy. And then community. This is the big one, right? People stay for the community. The whole part of this thing is if your community pops off, they're probably going to stay. There's going to be good retention. There's going to be good engagement. And so, and you don't want to beg for engagement, right? You don't want to have to ask silly questions or just like bolster metrics and ego and just like poke at them. Like you want it to be natural. You want it to feel like everybody is on the same mission doing something together. And so first starts with the categories, right? And so the categories should be around your pillars. Again, the point of the categories is just to make it really simple for them to understand how to post. If they don't understand, like in the Schoolers community, you can see that it's, let's see, very simple because as soon as you post, there's only one discussion. So easy. Whereas with Renegade, right, we have a general, we have our rituals, right? There's announcements, there's the Renegade diet. And so we use our pillars, right? Renegade rituals, Renegade diet. Those are two of our pillars. And so we just make sure that we make it easy for them to understand what am I posting and then how am I posting. And so we also want to have our social rituals that, you know, like what are things that just we do? And so if you can dictate what rituals are of the product and what rituals are just like social cool things that we do, then you can make the categories around it. And then it's a lot easier for them to understand this is what I post, this is how I post, this is when I post. Then they will post, right? Then we say have a ritual calendar because you need to dictate the rituals and then you need to be doing the rituals, which will then allow them to say like, oh, this is what I'm supposed to do. And the more they see you doing it, and then the more they see other people doing it, the more likely they are to post their own rituals. That is the number one part of running a community. Shared rituals where everybody is posting those rituals together, right? So then there's more things like definitely have a welcome post, have something pinned. Again, how do I belong and how do I behave in the community? That is a huge piece. And so it's not just a place for members to communicate, right? It's a place for you to build deep psychological belonging. And so we're really after these mirror neurons because if we can do that in their brain, we can create chemical connection at scale. And that is what we're ultimately looking to do. So at the highest level here is, we'll get to about, the about is about like selling people. So, and the leaderboard, of course, is social hierarchy. This is actually super important as well. Everything is about that status and that social hierarchy. So definitely use the leaderboard. Definitely have identities at the leaderboard, have metrics for them to hit, and have rewards for them to hit, right? Because that is how humans are. We're growth oriented. As soon as we see one, we hit it. If there's nothing else to hit, we're out. If there's another, all right, we're still in. And so that's a big part of engagement and retention as well. Onboarding and indoctrination, there's too much here. This is really the special sauce here because if they never start, they'll never continue and they'll never keep paying. There's this cute little gif of Sam. And then leading the school is all about engagement and retention systems. But this is our handbook. At its core is that you want to have a group identity, right? How do I associate? Give them a new identity. So it's a shared identity. Who are we? Going on a similar mission. Where are we going and how do we get there? That fulfills a frame of orientation. So we use our tribe map for that to build all 7 angles of social psychology. Right? Get that clear. Similar identity on a similar mission. And then the whole part of the community, the calendar, and the classroom is about building more and more like intensifying this who are we, us versus them energy, building the familiarity, seeing the same faces, sharing the same rituals, doing the same things every day, climbing that hierarchical leaderboard, like climbing the ladder, increasing in status, increasing in significance. And if your school can do that, you've used tribal psychology, they're gonna be more engaged, they're gonna have higher retention, you're gonna make more money, it's gonna be more fun, and you're gonna be a certified cult creator. And if you're really good, certified cult leader. So you can get this. We finally have this for sale. We didn't want to. This is our internal SOP of how we build 6-figure, 7-figure schools, our communities in general. This is just the Skool edition. But if you go to cultcreator.com/handbook, you can steal this for yourself. Either way, build for belonging, not for buyers. And you got this. All right, let's go build. Peace.